we're going to talk about 5 tips to improve your public speaking. So here's a question. What separates good speakers, the A or A- speakers, from award-winning, great A++ speakers? Well, we're going to look at 5 qualities that help those great speakers have an enhanced presence. They make it feel like an event, like something special is happening. And that's what you should be aiming for if you want to improve your speaking to be truly great. The first key that separates merely good speakers from great speakers is preparation. This is all the behind-the-scenes work that you do, like gathering your materials, picking the right structure, crafting great stories. Good speakers obviously do this, but great speakers do extra work behind the scenes so that during the presentation, they look at their notes just a little less often, or perhaps not at all, compared to good speakers who may look down a few extra times to find their place and see what comes next. The great speakers completely know their stuff. This frees them to engage with their listeners and show a superior level of comfort with their material. I recently helped judge a college speaking competition. The finalists were all in the great category. They all crushed it, but we had to pick a winner, and small differences mattered in the end. After the competition, I emailed the top 4 finalists to ask about their behind-the-scenes preparation. The overall winner practiced more than 50 times. Second place person practiced 18 times, but she found out she was going to be in the competition a little later than the other competitors. If she had more advance notice, I'm sure she would have practiced even more. The third place winner said that she practiced between 20 and 30 times, and fourth place practiced 10 times. I thought I saw a pattern, so I asked last year's winner. She practiced 30 or more times. Now, nobody knew this while they were presenting, but in retrospect, these extra repetitions clearly allowed the best of the best to freely engage their listeners and enjoy a mastery-level comfort with their content. The same is true when I work with corporate clients. The more they prepare, the more they move from good to great. Now, he's not a client, but Arnold Schwarzenegger is an underrated public speaker. He spoke a lot when he was governor of California. He speaks at college graduations, at corporate events, and he emphasizes the importance of preparation. It's one of his main themes. He wrote, "I knew once I got 10 reps, I could do a decent job delivering the speech, but 20 reps meant I could knock it out of the park. The words felt more natural, like I was speaking off the cuff and from the heart. The more I practiced the speech, the more of myself would be present in the room, and the more likely it would be that the people in the audience felt connected to me and to the ideas I was sharing with them." A++ speakers pay extra dues during the preparation phase, and that makes it look easy for them on the day. Second, great speakers keep their eyes up and locked in on listeners. Great speakers look right at you individually. They make you feel a one-on-one connection. Now, good speakers make good eye contact, no doubt, but they use a different standard. They don't look at their notes or their slides very much. That's true. They do make eye contact with individuals, but good speakers sometimes scan the crowd a little bit instead of locking in, or they look at just a few individuals most of the time. Great speakers make you feel like they're really looking right at you, so much so that it can take some listeners aback, like the speaker is looking into their soul. Great speakers are not thinking so much about eye contact as they're thinking about connecting with you. That's their standard. 3, when they move or walk on the platform or stage area, they move with a purpose. Good speakers will sometimes walk around a little bit, but it could come across like they're pacing or wandering, which can actually look okay as long as it doesn't look nervous. Or good speakers may stand completely still in one place and only gesture from the waist up. And that looks good because it looks composed. Being planted makes you look settled and grounded instead of nervous. But great speakers will move toward their listeners with a purpose. They'll walk forward a step or two toward a part of the room and make a really important point. And then a minute or two later, they may walk slightly to a different part of the stage and make another really important point. They're not walking around the whole time, but when they're walking, they're moving with intention to connect and to emphasize everything they say in a more dramatic way. 4th, great speakers use superior delivery to add emphasis. Delivery is the word we use in public speaking to describe how you come across during your actual speech. I already mentioned eye contact and movement as part of delivery, but I want to add to that voice and gestures in the same point here because these both add emphasis. Good public speakers certainly have a nice, clear, and loud voice. If you want to be good, the basic standard is that your voice should fill the room with good volume. Public speaking is not a time for soft talking. But in addition to a confident, loud voice, great speakers use a little more emotional variety. They will sometimes speak more loudly and other times deliberately bring it down to add emotional dynamics. They use their voice to paint a picture with a variety of colors. Gestures also add emphasis. Good public speakers gesture naturally. Their hands are not in their pockets or gripping their notes so tightly that they don't gesture at all. In short, they're not doing anything distracting with their hands, and they use their gestures to animate or emphasize their message. To quantify it, they have a good home base, and then they use their gestures, basic gestures, about once or twice per sentence. That looks conversational. Now, great gestures enhance a message beyond what you might anticipate. Great speakers use a wider variety of gestures. They don't necessarily gesture more, but some of their gestures are a little more expressive and dramatic. It's more like the way actors on a theater stage bring a scene to life with their body language. It's especially true if you're in a bigger room. The slightly more expressive gestures can make an impact even for the people sitting in the way back. Great delivery with your voice and your gestures can make even mundane information seem truly important. One of the speakers in the competition I mentioned was speaking about a topic related to the weather. Now, that might not sound thrilling on paper, but his voice, his gestures, and other delivery skills were really great. And I was thinking during his presentation, dang, the weather is way more important than I realized. Great speakers like this squeeze every ounce out of their voice and their gestures to bring a message to life. Number 5, great speakers communicate with enthusiasm, passion, and emotion. Now, good speakers are typically composed, smooth, and come across as confident, and we all want that. But great speakers take that extra step and get listeners emotionally involved. You might even see and hear listeners in the room getting choked up or laughing or making a facial expression that says, wow. Now, how do these great speakers do that? Well, some of it is absolutely connected to the topic of the speech. Some subjects allow for more personal stories that listeners will relate to. Some speakers select topics that are so important to them that they become part of the story. And if the speaker's talking about the steps they've taken on their journey, they use that to relate to their listeners and pull them in. But great speakers must also make a series of small decisions in the preparation stage to share a little bit more information, usually through personal stories, to make themselves vulnerable. Great speakers, in other words, put themselves out there with their passion and their emotion, and that's like an invitation for listeners to meet them there. I'm remembering that this year's winner and also last year's winner from that competition I mentioned were both pulling us in with their stories, and they both moved us emotionally. So how do you go from A- or A to A++? Well, here's a summary. Now, clearly, numbers 2 through 5 on the list are all extensions of superior preparation. If you're extremely prepared, that frees you to have great delivery, connect with your listeners, and communicate with passion and emotion. As you look at these 5 areas, which one do you think you should personally work on first? And tell me if I missed anything. What do you think separates the best speakers from the rest? Until next time, thanks, God bless, and I will see you soon.